Welcome aboard, guys. As you may know, I recently did a trip up to Plano, Texas, to go see the Cybercab. It was at Legacy West showroom. All right. As part of that, the trip, I also did a series of ice comparison notes, which is something I also do. So there was a video I did for 2024 Ford Explorer ice comparison notes. Is it notes or no? Not, whichever. Somebody commented on that, and he laid in some interesting observations, which sounded like somebody who just doesn't like battery-powered vehicles. Okay? I mean, it could be he really was serious, but when I asked what car he drove, I didn't get a response. And I didn't really expect one, right? But whatever. The one thing I got out of what he said, so in my response, I offered, hey, if you got a route like this in Massachusetts, he lives in Massachusetts, okay? So he said that. If you have a route like this in Massachusetts, next time I'm in Massachusetts, I'll go drive it. Okay, no response. Okay, whatever. I didn't really expect one. You know, some people will say stuff and then realize maybe they didn't mean to say anything. Who knows? Okay. So, since my daughter and her family lives in Massachusetts, in the Boston area, I started looking around and saying, well, what could I do that's around a round trip of 488 miles? Okay. I originally started out with Augusta, Maine, but then I came across something that looked more interesting. That thing that was more interesting, the Maine Forest and Logging Museum. Now, the museum itself is not really interesting, but it's a destination similar to like Legacy West is in Plano, right? You're going there to go there. Okay. It's a fun little trip. It's going to be educational in some way. There might be some interesting things to look at. All right. So, well, let's be fair, okay? So my first thought was, well, I could go west through Massachusetts, but it looks like I could make it to Cooperstown maybe, but that's in another state. And I wanted to keep it, that's not even going to be fair either. But anyway, I thought about it, but I don't really want to go across into New York. Okay, New York implies more traffic, more congestion. Okay. Going south, obviously, leads you into, well, is it Long Island Bay? I don't know. Whatever that body of water is that's between Long Island and the United States. So that was not going to work. Admittedly, White Plains is close, but again, there's a lot of congestion, right? You don't drive a gas car in that kind of traffic because it's efficient. No, you don't. Seriously? Okay. When I'm going slow, I'm not using much energy. I'm saving energy. I can go further. If you're in a gas park car, yes, you may be saving a little bit of energy, but not that much because your car is still running the whole time. Okay? That's why, yes. That's why city driving in an ice-powered ice car uses more gas. It's more stop and go. Okay, whatever, peace and army. So we're not going to go that way. Obviously, I can't go east because that leads into the Atlantic Ocean. Yes. So anyway, that's why I was going north. So I found a route, or I mapped out a route. So, like I said, I was looking at Augusta, and I looked at the south end anchor. And so I figured the south end anchor could be Peabody. There's a supercharger there. It's if you think of I-95 doing a loop around Boston, it's north of that loop. So you're not really in the Boston traffic. So that's good, right? Just do the drive. But when I went back and looked towards Augusta, I was like, yeah, Augusta's just not quite going to work out the 488 miles round trip. But like I said, I found this museum that works. It's 231 miles from Peabody. And I already mentioned the loop. So this trip is 462 miles round trip. Okay. For some reason, I had another mile coming back, but I haven't gone back and reviewed the details of the trip from my car's perspective. Okay. So Google says the total trip is 462 miles. The total time is 6 hours, 58 minutes, not including the time at the museum. Okay. So this will be the basis of my Massachusetts long trip. Yes, that means I have to drive about 3 days. It's actually like 2 2/3 days, depending on how long you drive, obviously. Yes, and I wouldn't want to be going through Erie, Pennsylvania, and Niagara Falls at this time. Too much snow up there right now. So this probably looks like an April trip. But anyway, this is the basis of what I'm going to do. Right? Now, the other part of this is my daughter does have a Subaru Ascent. The Subaru Ascent has similar mileage, similar tank to that Ford Explorer. So hopefully I can borrow her car and do it with her car as well, just so that you have a apples to apples comparison. That's what really helps, to do an apples to apples comparison. Okay, basic rules of this trip. Since this trip is about comparing closer to apples an EV and an ICE-powered car, we should be following the same rules, right? So, drive legally. Pretty obvious, right? That means don't speed. Okay? Yes, there'll be cars passing us. People go easy plus 10. But you have to make it equal. Okay. The starting point will be 1A Newbury Street, Peabody, Massachusetts. Okay. For those of you wondering, yes, there is a Tesla supercharger there. It's a big parking lot as well. It's a hotel, I think. Anyway, peace and harmony. It's fine. But what about the poor guy driving the gas-powered vehicle? Well, there's a 7-Eleven the next block up from there. Okay? It's right off I-90. I didn't look at how you'd have to go through from 7-Eleven to get to I-90. I assume that we would both use the same basic highway ramp. But I didn't look at it that close. I'll admit that. Okay? But that's the starting point. I mean, if you're in the gas-powered car and you think it's more efficient, or better for you, start at 1A. That's fine with me. I'm just giving you alternative. You can go to 7-Eleven if that's a more efficient way for you to accomplish this trip. Okay. The turnaround point is the parking lot at 262 Government Road, Bradley, Maine. Now, that's the information center, welcome center for the Maine Forest and Logging Museum. Okay. And then you would just return to either the Tesla Superchargers on 1A Newbury Street or return to 7-Eleven. Again, whichever one you think is more efficient to you, the difference is very minor, right? And let's admit it right now, the EV will take another 30 minutes or so to get there than the gas-powered car will. assuming we're all following the same rules. Okay. Energy and human needs stops are part of the time. Okay, so this what we're doing is we're going to compare times. I'm already admitting to you that yes, the gas-powered car will get there faster than me. The question is how much faster. Okay, and I'm throwing it out now. I expect anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes longer. Okay. Actually, I'm not quite. I haven't gone back looked. I'm sorry. So my daughter's ascent. I think this is right at the. No, it should be within capabilities of one tank. Okay, but it may be right at the border of one tank driving. Okay. So, whenever you do stop, you should record the start and end of that stop, time-wise. So we know how much time you took extra to do that. Okay? So the main record keeping of this trip is time. Okay? The mileage, we're doing the same trip, I think. It's basically I-95 combined with I-295, I think it is, back to I-95. And then turning right back around and coming back the same way. So the miles should be about almost the same, but they should be recorded. Okay. The brakes should be documented in the document. Yes, okay. Let's keep going. All right, so the time at the museum doesn't count as part of the trip. I mean, it looks like there's a lot of walking or hiking around, right? So if one person spends an hour and a half hiking and the other person says, yeah, I saw it, and leaves, that wouldn't be a fair comparison. Okay? So that is not part of the time. Okay, so the trip can be started with 100% energy. For an EV, that means your battery's 100% charged. For the gas-powered vehicle, it means your tank's 100% full. Okay? Easy enough. Since the end of the trip is not, I worded this awkwardly. How do I word it better? Okay. For the EV, or in this case Tesla, we're at a Tesla charging station. You can arrive with 0% energy. The same thing with the gas-powered car. Since you can arrive at the 7-Eleven, you can have zero energy, zero gas when you pull up to the pumps. I mean, I wouldn't suggest you run completely out, but you don't have to carry any extra gas. Okay? The one thing I'm missing here, so I'm working with two parts here. The first part is whether you take an energy break or a human needs break, you should record the distance from the highway that break is. Basically, from the time you get off the highway to the time you come to a stop to the time you go back onto the highway. Okay. Distance and time. And then it would be nice if you provided a rating for that stop. And whatever notes you want to add to it. Okay? I was thinking of something else and I've lost track of what it is. And I haven't called it out directly. So what I will say is, when I lay out my plan for what I plan to do, I will include how I plan to handle getting food, go to bathroom breaks, all this stuff. Okay? It'll be in there. Okay. I'm sure there must be more, but this is the basics of the rules. Okay? And the idea is, it's a human driver driving the car. I probably shouldn't even say that, right? All right. For those of you wondering, yes, my car has FSD, full self-driving supervised. I'll be using the FSD. So in some ways, although I'll be in the driver's seat and I'll be supervising, I won't be driving most of the time. The car will be driving itself. Okay? But that's perfectly within the rules. So if you have a Ford with Blue Cruise, or you have a Chevy with Super Cruise, or I know Mercedes has an assistance thing. Hyundai EVs have an assistance thing. If you want to use that, that's fine. The main thing is you're driving it. Okay? So there you go. Onward, upward. Okay, so this trip starts in Peabody. There's actually Tesla superchargers at 1A Newberry Street in Peabody, Mass. There's 10 version 3s there. So that sounds like a good place to start. Um, from Google, it sounds like it's associated with a hotel, but I'm not sure it's all hotel. Maybe there's some other parts to it. For those of you who see things a different way, there is a 7-Eleven the next block up. Okay, so either one of those places will work for a starting place. All right, so for those of you who drive an EV and you prefer this approach, I did notice there's an Electrify America there in Peabody. It's off to the east, so I'm not sure how much difference it'll make in mileage and time, but you got to use what you got to use. So just throwing that out there. And obviously, if that's where you start from, that's also where you end from, right? In that case, we really do need to know the miles, right? But just in case that comes up. Okay, so the first planned stop for Big Ray 1 on this trip is in Bangor, Maine. There's a Tesla version 3 supercharger at 693 Broadway where they have 8 posts. Okay, there's a Subaru right across the street, not right across the street, but just almost right across the street. So I'm hoping that's close enough. According to Google Maps, that's 222 miles away from the start at Peabody, and it'll be 3 hours and 12 minutes, which for me is kind of long and has me wondering if I will take a break somewhere else, but we'll see. Okay? As it turns out, because we got off I-95, the museum's only 25 miles away. I'm actually saving 5 miles as opposed to if you went straight up I-95, cut over to Bradley, and then came back down south. So, not really cheating, just works out to my advantage that way. Anyway, like I said, you save 5 miles. You use about 3 kilowatt hours is almost nothing. So, the real reason for stopping here is because I've been driving. The battery has been warmed up. It's been preconditioned. It's better to charge up while it's preconditioned. Okay. And this is in April, I think. So April's kind of cool. So it's better to make sure everything is warm to get optimal charge. Again, it's a version 3, so I expect 15 minutes to charge. I won't charge 100%. I'll just charge enough to get on to the next charging stop. Anyway, there you go. So every trip should have some kind of purpose. Why are you making the trip, right? So I'm going to the Maine Forest and Logging Museum. It's at 262 Government Road, Bradley, Maine. I'm not really quite sure exactly what I'm going to find. I assume that it's an old logging site or forestry site, and that from what they said, that's what it sounds like it is. I'm not even sure there's admissions, right? It may be free just to walk around. Okay, whatever. It's a place to go. All right. So after leaving the Maine Forest and Logging Museum, the next stop would be Scarborough, Maine. Now, this one appears to be closer oriented. It can't be. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong. Okay, whatever. I was going to say maybe it's closer to Peabody than it is to the forest, the museum, but maybe not. Okay, anyway, Scarborough, Maine, to Cummings Road, which means this supercharger is in the property of a Fairfield Inn. Okay, Fairfield Inn means they at least have restrooms. Hopefully, I mean I'm sure they do for patrons, but I mean I've been to one place where the hotel the superchargers are on said if you're not a paying guest, we're not letting you use the bathroom. So just throwing that in there, just in case I need to. Um, there is a Walmart, so this supercharger is on the west side of 295. There's a Walmart on the east side of 295, not far away. And for those of you who use Electrify America, there is indeed Electrify America there. Okay. Anyway, so what I show is we've traveled 145 miles for a time of 2 hours and 18 minutes. And my guess is I need about 155 miles from Bangor, or 55% to make it to this stop. So that's what I'm projecting at the moment. I mean, what's the right way to put it? I guess when I'm in Bangor, I'll put in Scarborough and see when it gets to the point where things can move on. There is a possibility I may have to reevaluate where this intermediate stop is, but that's what I have down for the moment. That's what the plan is for the moment. Okay? I'll open charge. And we'll end this trip where we started, and that's in Peabody. Okay, just in case you needed this part to know where we are, when we stopped there in Scarborough, we're actually 88 miles away from Peabody. So it'll take an hour 22 to finish that off. At the moment, I'm looking at that 88 miles. I may only need like 30% battery to make it in. I don't know. I'll work with it as I go along. But the point is, this is the starting point of how it's just going to happen. So it sounds like I probably want to make sure I have snacks with me for the second half of the trip. But anyway, we'll work it out. It's all good. It's just exciting though. If I only need 30% to get into Peabody, hey, it take almost nothing to put 30% in. Right? It's the top end of the pack that takes longer, not the bottom end. Okay, it got dark on me, but whatever. You can see my face. All right, so this is going back. So I guess I already introduced it. Anyway, so this guy said some things, and you kind of state them as fact, and you're like, well, what EV are you driving? Anyway, so the first one, right? That Ford Explorer can do it, or in 10 times less time? What? Something like that. I forgot exactly what his words were, but basically it would take me 10 times as long to drive an EV than it would for him to drive a Ford Explorer. Okay, so this Massachusetts trip, Google says it should take about 7 hours. Okay, more or less. What do you say? So 10 times 7 hours is 70 hours. It's going to take me multiple days? No, it's not. Right? It may take me 7.5 hours. Yes, I'll give you that. But I don't see how, if it's going to take me 7.5 hours, I don't see what is 10 times faster than 7.5 hours. You're going to make that whole trip less than an hour, right? And it's a 460-mile round trip, so it's not. That's the part where I said you can't violate the law, right? Okay, that must be it. Okay, so anyway, right away, I'm treating anything he says as an exaggeration. Okay, there you go. All right, places to charge. Well, gee willikers, dude. Have you looked to see how many Tesla chargers there are between Peabody and 262 Government Road? I wouldn't say it's Ozona. It's not Ohona or something like that. Anyway, whatever it is, there's like double the amount of chargers I need. I mean, charging stations, I should say, from Tesla, right? They have several version 3s, and then they have more than 3 version 2s. So I shouldn't have any problem finding any chargers. I find it hard to believe. And even if I do manage to make it there, I won't find any posts. Well, the smallest site that I'm targeting has 8 posts, right? I think it's 812.8, something like that. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. But you know what? If it is, oh, that's right. There's Electrify America, there's EVgo, and ChargePoint. So I can always, I'm pretty sure I can find something. Okay, so anyway, there's that part. And so I've been playing with it, but whatever. Let's skip all that. The max charge rate for Big Ray 1, which is a Model 3, a Highland Model 3, is 250 kilowatts. Yeah, so, I mean, I'll take on energy pretty quick. And so where I was going was comparing, like, he was talking about, like, it's not even fair to say a Nissan Leaf. Because I think even a Nissan Leaf will do better. But Nissan Leaf uses CHAdeMO as its charging plug. And that might be hard to find. I'll give you that. Okay? The Chevy Bolt's another example of a EV that charges slowly. But he can cover 250 miles or something like that, if I remember right. So, come on. No. If you can't give specific examples of what the problem is, you're just making it up. Okay? And it's not that hard to go out and rent an EV. It's not. I mean, maybe more than you want to pay. It may not be convenient for you, but come on. All right. Oh, and you said something about stops taking 30 minutes. So I'm kind of wondering, if you think stops will only take 30 minutes, why does he think it's going to take me 10 times longer? Right? If stops only take 30 minutes, I only have 2 stops planned on the round trip. And that second one already looks like it's going to be a short stop. What some people call splash and dash. So I don't know. Again, if you're going to make these kind of claims, please be specific. I drive such and such. Here's my experience. Then we have fair, accurate comparisons to make. If you're just throwing out numbers, you're lying. Okay. Okay, so he made some statements about ICE drivers, or at least specifically him. So it'll take him 1.6 minutes to fill up his gas tank. Okay, that sounds somewhat reasonable. It's a little faster than what other people say, but that's nitpicking, right? Although I will say this, okay? Back when I had a Ford F-250, a diesel, I pulled into the gas station one day, went to go fill up, and it was filling up slow. We just had a cold snap, so the temperature dropped 15, 20 degrees. So basically the clerk said, well, we have to make an adjustment every time temperature drops that much. So even in that world, there are occasional hiccups. Okay? What? Oh, you're talking about the hurricanes in Florida. Yes, I always love this one. Okay. Not that this guy said it, but there are those people who say, well, what happens when a hurricane comes through and the power goes out? Well, hopefully you knew about the hurricane before and charged up your car before. So you have power in your car. But what about the reverse? So if there's no power to run the charging stations, is there power to run the gas pumps? Yeah. Think through it. Yes. Okay, whatever. He also said his human needs stop would be 5 minutes. So, I mean, that sounds, it depends upon the traffic at the gas station, I guess, right? Okay. He also made some kind of statement about cold temperatures. Okay. It sounded like he was exaggerating to some extent, but I've only experienced it on one trip up to Boston. Okay. And that is, yes, if the car's cold, it'll charge slower. So in this case, I was in Tennessee. It was right around freezing. Right? First thing in the morning, so here's a stop. Let's get some energy in the car before we get going. Well, it turned out that was not a great idea. So as soon as I got enough energy for the car to make it to the next stop, I moved on. By the time I made it to the next stop, oh yeah, no problem. Charged, good. Was the car sluggish? I didn't feel like the car was sluggish. And I wasn't paying that close attention to what the energy use was, so I can't really qualify it. But I will say up front, yes, although it's kind of in the back, right? Energy, cold weather affects your energy availability. Absolutely. How much? I've heard some people, going back to Nissan Leaf, there was a guy who said he was losing like half the energy in Colorado. Okay. But it was an old Leaf. Okay. Whatever. Peace and harmony. So there was another comment he made. Something about you can't just, if you're out in the middle of nowhere, out in rural Massachusetts, Texas, whatever, you can't just run up to a house and ask them to pour you a bucket of electrons. Okay? I assume the assumption he's making is, or saying, is, well, you can walk up to a house and they'll have a gas can with gas in it for you. Okay? Whether or not that's true, whatever. But I have seen YouTube videos where people have gone up to houses and say, I ran out of energy. Can I plug into your 110 outlet for an hour or so just to get some energy back in my car? What? You didn't know that's a possibility? Come on, man. If you're making a statement, you should know what you're talking about. All right. So, yes, I carry a portable charger or EVSE in my car. Both my cars have it. And it's there for that particular reason. Right? You can't call the service station and say, hey, can you just run a 5-gallon can out to me and fill me up? Or put 5 gallons in. Right? I mean, that's the way it goes. On the other hand, if you run out of energy, you call a tow company, they come pick you up, they take you down to the next charging station where you can add energy. So one of the two ways you'll get there. Okay? But I'm not about to test that out here. What? Oh yeah, yes, I have plugged in at home. Yes. Absolutely. Um, just to try it out, make sure when I do a video about this is how it works, this is how it works. Okay. The problem, of course, is you can only add so much energy on a 110 outlet. But whatever. I mean, in say an hour, right? It's not going to add that much. Okay, there you go. There are some of the statements made. Part of the justification, so to speak, for why I'm doing this or putting together this run. Okay, onward, upward, charge.